Hi, my name is Kristen Bartholomew. I've created multiple open education resources to replace the textbook in my courses. So I thought I would just go through and show you the process that I use and some tips that might help you out if you decide to tackle a project like this. The first step that I do is categorize everything based on learning outcomes. So I set everything up ahead of time with the course learning outcomes, the evidence of learning, which we usually use as the unit or the module outcomes, and then the reading assignment objectives that are going to guide the material and content for the OER that I'm creating. And then I also align it with the assignments that are planned for the course because we usually have these set up ahead of time, and so I just want to make sure that I'm keeping really good alignment with everything I'm doing. So within the module assignments, this is where I would also include these reading assignments or lesson plans from SoftChalk. These are interactive and I use them as assignments. And of course they're going to be a formative type of assessment, so that it's more of reading and practicing the material that will help them move towards a mastery that we would then assess within a summative assessment. If you're not familiar with what I mean by the evidence of learning, I think everyone knows the course learning outcomes. But we also have evidence of learning for every course at Valencia, and they are the kind of smaller steps that are necessary at the unit level to achieve the larger course learning outcomes. So if you're not familiar with those, you actually can look up in Atlas for your course. It's in the faculty tab. And if you go to Course Information Management System, or what we lovingly refer to it as KIM, and then you just click the yellow button. So I'm going to look up the course that I was just showing you. And if you scroll down, you will see the major learning outcomes with evidence of learning. So here's the first learning outcome. And then this is the corresponding evidence of learning. So these are the smaller outcomes that we use for the unit level. And so if I go back to this, that's what you're going to find right here in this column. Then with the reading assignment objectives, these are much more specific, detailed outcomes or objectives that, again, help reach the learning unit outcomes or the module outcomes that then help to reach the larger course outcomes. So these are going to be very specific types of things that students will use in their readings. So then the next step is that I start putting this information together. So after I have created that mapping plan of my learning outcomes, then I go back and kind of set how is this going to look within my book. So we show based on the module what we're going to name it, and then the sections that will cover all of those learning outcomes that we were talking about. And then I usually have another column that just kind of talks about some of the other things, like are there going to be videos in there, what kind of activities from SoftChalk that maybe I want to include in there. And then I am ready to start putting the material together, the content. So at the top of this I have the kind of the sections that I want to include in the module writing. But what would be a little bit better to put here is probably the learning outcomes for the reading or the reading objectives. And that would help me a little bit, probably guide the material a little more. So that's probably a better one. So I literally just, start typing in the material that I want to use. Now you're going to see a lot of notes over on the side. That's because I never work alone. I always work with other individuals when we're doing course textbooks and OERs. So we usually have 2 people writing the material, and then 1 to 2 people who will do the editing for us, just to make sure we don't have any typos. I also even include the questions as we're going through, and if there are any activities that we think of along the way. The more material you have written down here at this stage, the easier it is when you get into SoftChalk. And then you can always add things, of course, once you get into SoftChalk, but it's just kind of nice when you have all the material laid out ahead of time. So now I'm ready to start copying and pasting this into SoftChalk. I like to do small sections at a time. I think it makes it a little bit easier so that I can make sure that everything shows up the way I want it to in SoftChalk. So I just right-click copy, and then I go into SoftChalk and right-click paste. Now, I'm coming from OneNote, but if you come from Word, it normally keeps the headers if you have them set in Word. So I would just go back and forth between my content, copying and pasting, until I get everything added in. Once I have everything in, I can go through and start cleaning it up and adding some headers, making sure the spacing looks good. The other thing that I like to do is I like to add my learning objectives to the beginning of each reading assignment. You will want to add all of your quiz groups, any of the activities that you want to include, add any of your videos into your reading assignment. Then I always like to go into lesson properties and make it look the way that I want to. And then the final thing that I really like to do is include an overview page. So this is the kind of the splash page that comes up that students see at the very beginning before they click a button to start the lesson. In these, I normally include the unit module outcomes. And then in this section, I think what's really helpful for students is to provide the reference or citation, because if they are writing a paper and they need to cite the reading material, it's a little tricky for students to figure that out. So having that available to them can be really insightful and helpful to them. As we go through the class, you'll learn more about how to incorporate each of those activities and make it look the way that you want to. So don't get too hung up on how fast I went through all of those in this video. That's the whole purpose of this course, is to learn how to do the technology behind that. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to the rest of this class with you.